Hey everybody, Dan Bespris here to remind you that Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. They've got the earliest odds, in-game live betting, and the ability to watch the games as they happen so you can see how your wager is doing in real time. And they've got everything. Football, NBA, college hoops, NHL, UFC, the list goes on and on. Your options are nearly infinite. So head to Bet Online today and don't forget to use our special promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for a welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. Let's get to the program. Yeah, we're going back to back on this Monday morning, man. My kids are back in school. I can podcast all damn day if I want, much to your delight, I'm sure. Don't stop me or anything right there. Welcome, everybody, to our second episode, one right after the other here on a Monday morning of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I am Dan Bespris at Dan Bespris on Twitter, DANBESBRIS. Let's get that Twitter growing again. I like to see those numbers going up. I didn't think when I got into fantasy sports that I would give a crap about any of that stuff, but now I do. The endorphins have kicked in, and now I care. I just want to see things grow. I want to see the Twitter grow. I want to see the YouTube grow. I want to see it all grow. So follow, subscribe here on YouTube. Hit the like button. That'll also help the video kind of drop into various feeds. And if you have a moment, please pre-like our trade deadline live show video. It's in the show description. It's also back at our YouTube homepage that has a picture of Kyle Kuzma on it because we're just guessing at what might get traded. We're going to be doing at least 4 hours that morning, Thursday, February the 6th, of live action. Myself, the great Adam King, and we'll be inviting a host of amazing fantasy analysts to join us on the show and break down these trades as they occur. So please pre-like that. That'll help get this bad boy cooking. This show is the Yahoo Top 10 list. Here are the 10 most added players today, Monday, January the 6th. This is not my own list. This is from Yahoo. These are the transaction reports on who's getting added right now. And you can see on your screen, here's a tweet I put out with it earlier this morning. Number 1 is Ryan Dunn of the Phoenix Suns. Number 2, Nikola Jovic on the Miami Heat. Number 3, Quentin Grimes of the Dallas Mavericks. Number 4, Grayson Allen. We're back in Phoenix again. Number 5, Brice Sensabaugh, who's going crazy for the Utah Jazz right now. Number 6, Keon Johnson in Brooklyn. Number 7, Ausar Thompson in Detroit. Number 8, yet another Phoenix Sun, Mason Plumlee. There's an obvious explanation for that, and we'll get to those in a moment. Number 9, Deni Avdija on the Portland Trail Blazers. And number 10, Ziaire Williams back in Brooklyn, where we have a couple of names on the board. So obviously the Phoenix Suns are the biggest populator of the list right now. The biggest reason for that is the fact that they have 5 games in 7 nights starting tonight. But the sort of secondary reason to that, and yes, I don't know why I pronounced it with the syllable with the wrong accent, is that they've also pre-announced that they're shifting their starting 5. Bradley Beal is out. Yusuf Nurkic, who is already suspended, remains not part of the starting 5. Mason Plumlee and Ryan Dunn are in the starting 5. So that, friends, is as good a segue as we're going to get to talk about Ryan Dunn, the new starter for the Phoenix Suns, who is a rookie, by the way, 28th pick this year out of Virginia. Young dude. I think he's 20. Oh, hey, tomorrow's his birthday. Happy almost birthday, Ryan Dunn. He'll be 22 tomorrow. So, more of the kind of not finished, but closer to finished product type of rookie, which, again, there's some good and bad stuff with that. The good is that he can contribute. For me to come on this thing and just say, oh, no, Ryan Dunn, there's no chance, is treating him like he's a 19-year-old coming in. There is a chance that he can contribute. Over the last 2 games, Ryan's averaged about 32 minutes a game. He's at 10 points, 6.5 boards, 2 assists, a steal, 1.5 blocks on 50% shooting, and 1.5 3-pointers. That's a decent fantasy line. I don't know if he's going to keep up 2.5 defensive stats every single game while he's a starter. I don't know that the 6.5 rebounds are going to stick either, because we don't really have that much on Dunn that sort of allows us to know what he's going to be going forward. With a 5-game week, adding him feels kind of like a no-brainer, at least on the head-to-head side, just to see what happens. Even if he averages 8 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, a steal, and half a block, you put that over 5 games, that's a 40-point week. That's a 25 rebound week. That's a 10 assist week. It's 5 steals. It's 2 to 3 blocks. It's, 6 3-pointers. Go back and look at some of your guys over the last few weeks, especially like someone with a 3-gamer, but even the fringy guys with 4, that's probably better than a lot of those dudes. Maybe not all the way better, but then here's the thing. All it takes is one like medium game out of all of those for it to become a very obvious yes play. So head to head, absolutely. Why the hell not? You have literally nothing to lose on the head-to-head side. This young dude into the starting 5 in a 5-game week. Nothing to lose there, which I can't say about every other member of the Phoenix Suns on this list. There are some things to lose with some of them, but he's a starter now. Like, worst case scenario, he's playing 20-some-odd minutes a game. They're not going to bump him into the starting 5 to decrease his playing time. And best case, I mean, maybe you get 150 minutes of action out of him. That's great. If he keeps up the pace he's on, that's massive. That's 52, 53 points, 8 threes, 35 almost rebounds, 10 assists, 5 steals, 7 or 8 blocks. That's a huge week. Especially the boards, the steals, and the blocks. And maybe that's the upside. Maybe it is board, steals, blocks. Now, if we're talking games cap, and I want to try to do this with every guy on the list, we'll talk head-to-head, we'll talk games cap. I would not drop him into a games cap lineup on this very first day of him being a starter. I might not drop him into a games cap lineup on any day of him being a starter. But head-to-head, that is a round and easy yes. Next name on the list is Nikola Jovic of the Miami Heat, who, man, you guys that have watched this show a while, you know how frustrated I am with the Miami Heat rotations for their non-star level players. And Jovic very much falls into that category, along with the likes of Terry Rozier, who we were hoping would be more of a reliable play, but not really. Haywood Highsmith, Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez Jr. That's the 5 fringe rotation guys that all sit somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, seemingly every night, but not always right in the middle. Like if you pointed at them and you were like, every one of these guys is going to get exactly 25 minutes, I'd be like, well, you could probably get enough out of like maybe Rozier, not with the way he's playing this year. Instead, it's like 21 and then 30 and then 21 and then 27 and then there's a 25 in there. And for Jovic, he's around 27 minutes over the last week, which is heavily, post Jimmy Butler stuff. He's averaging 11 points, 3.5 boards, almost 5 assists, a steal, 1.7 threes on 48% from the field. And he's made all 2, I believe, of his free throws. And that puts him somewhere in the neighborhood of around top 100 value. Again, if we're talking head-to-head, I have no problem with it. Miami has a back-to-back to start the week. They're actually at the tail end of a 5 games and 7 days stretch. So there's a possibility that they might arrest somebody in one of these 2 games anyway. Then they've got Utah on Thursday, which should be a relatively high-scoring game. They've got Portland on Saturday. It's a really good scheduling week for the Heat. So, again, if we're talking head-to-head, I don't really have a problem with you guys going Jovic for the back-to-back or for 4 days or even for 6 days. I don't think I would extend it beyond that, even though their schedule stays every other day starting tomorrow, basically. Tomorrow, they go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And, this is the way it goes for weeks down the line, which is fine. 50% of your days being game days is quite average and quite fine. But for a guy like Jovic, who's not really a guaranteed top 100 guy, I don't think he will be a top 100 guy, even with Butler out. You probably just want to go for sort of the heavy part and then see if you can pivot into some other team that has a heavy schedule. So either go Jovic for 2 days and then move off, or Jovic for 4 and then move off. Probably don't need to go all 6. I think there's probably someone out there playing 2 games at least, or 2 games over the last 3 days of this week that maybe extends into a better schedule the following week that has a better outlook than Jovic. Games cap, no shot. No, not even close. Next name on the list is Quentin Grimes of the Dallas Mavericks, and he's a play in all formats right now because Kyrie Irving is out. Dallas has a good schedule to start this week, a back-to-back today, tomorrow, and then they play again on Thursday. And on Roto, with Kyrie and Clay both out, then there's just like more than enough for Quentin Grimes to be a top 100 guy or better. So this is an easy one. Grimes is going to get plenty of usage. He's a relatively good efficiency guy. He rebounds, he gets steals, he gets 3-pointers. These are all the things that sort of raise the floor for a player, being efficient with threes and steals and rebounds. But the removal of Luka pushed him up to fringe start, and the removal of Kyrie pushed him well past that. So Grimes is an ad, all formats. Today is a great one, too, because Dallas had a bad schedule to end last week. They only had 1 game over the final 4 days last week. Ooh, grubby. I know. That's an unfortunate way. But now it kind of comes back to us as an early week win. And their schedule, frankly, over the next 3 weeks is actually pretty good. I don't know how long Kyrie's going to be out. This might just be him resting in Memphis before playing at home against LA. But either way, Grimes is going to be good for at least one of these 2 games on the back-to-back. He should be fine, at least, in the 2 other ones. But the possibility to be better than that if Kyrie has to miss more time. So Grimes is an all-systems-go ad. That's an easy one on this list. Full agree. Good pick. Grayson Allen is the next name on the board. So we head back into Phoenix, where we've already discussed a lot of the reasons for things happening. But Grayson Allen is kind of the odd man out of the 3 Phoenix guys on today's board, because we talked Ryan Dunn a moment ago. We'll have Mason Plumlee later on. Those are 2 guys in Dunn and Plumlee that got moved into the Phoenix Suns starting rotation. Starting 5, starting rotation, pitching staff. Grayson Allen, by all accounts, didn't really have his role changed other than this idea of, okay, is Phoenix trying to irritate Bradley Beal so much that he asks out? Is that the plan here? To do like the dick boss move of just making someone's life a living hell until they quit kind of thing? I remember watching that happen in the minor leagues a couple of times where you saw somebody just like putting the screws to an employee, but not firing them. Take it back. And I even talked to the boss that did it, became a good friend of mine. And I talked to this person down the line, and they confirmed that, yes, they were told, like, ruin this person's life, like make it miserable so they quit. So then the company doesn't have to pay a severance package. And this is something that happens in corporate America all the time. That's basically what it looks like is happening with Beal right now. I mean, we can neither confirm nor deny, and I'm sure they would never. But as far as Grayson Allen goes, again, 5-game week, nothing to lose. Make sure you add Grayson Allen in head-to-head side. He should be great this week. He's a high-efficiency 3-point dude who can pass a little bit if he gets some point guard role. If KD sits any of those games, if Booker sits any, if Beal sits any, great. There's your upside beyond it. But again, Roto, if you're talking games cap, head-to-head Roto, whatever games cap type of league you might be in, I don't know how you just drop him into your lineup. That would be so ballsy, because we haven't heard anything about his role shifting all that much. And yeah, I know his last game was pretty good. He played 31 minutes. This is kind of what we were hoping for 2 or 3 weeks ago. I guess it was a month ago now, when it looked like his minutes were on the rise, and then he got hurt. He missed a couple of games, and he hasn't really gotten the minutes back up where they were. But if you look back, and you can see the game log on your screen if you're watching on YouTube with us, at the beginning of December, end of November, he had a 32, 30-minute game. There was a 24 mixed in there. But when he gets 30 minutes, I mean, this is a dude who's way inside the top 100 in 30 minutes. He just hasn't gotten those types of minutes this year. And I think he's at 24 on the season. Last year he was at 33.5, and he was practically a top 50 dude because of efficiency, which again, hard to replicate. 3-point percent, not surprisingly, is lower this year. But again, you get him up to 30, then he's a play in all formats. As it stands right now, we don't know that he's going to get up to 30, even with the Suns lineup adjustments. And if this is all a ploy to get Beal to say, yeah, fine, trade me, and Jimmy Butler shows up, then things don't change at all or potentially get worse. But again, head-to-head side, you got nothing to lose, so have at it. Brice freaking Sensabaugh. This dude came out of no place to have 2 monster games over the weekend. One of them was with a lot of his teammates playing. The other one was with very few of his teammates playing. And I can't help but think that we've probably seen the best case scenario twice. He went 12 for 18 on Saturday, 11 for 19 on Sunday. He had 12 3-pointers in those 2 games, scored over 60 points combined. That's nuts. Guys, it ain't happening again. If Clarkson, Markkanen, Keontae George, and John Collins are all out again for Utah's next ball game, I would probably consider playing Sensabaugh because it seems like he'll take 15 shots if that much usage is available to him. And almost anybody in the NBA taking 15 shots, that means they're just so involved. They're probably worthwhile play. But Utah doesn't play today. So if you're picking him up, that means you're planning on holding him basically for the week because the best part of Utah's schedule is their Saturday, Sunday back-to-back at the end of the week before going into a 2-gamer. You guys can walk through with this one with me. I'm definitely not playing him against a games cap. I'm almost definitely not adding him in head-to-head today because they don't play tonight. And I'm probably not adding him tomorrow unless I find out everybody else is out. How far along are we right now? Is that the halfway point? I think that's the halfway point. Next name on the list is Keon Johnson, and I am in on Keon Johnson. I'm not Quentin Grimes level in on Keon Johnson, but I am part of that. I'm like an 80% of a Grimes level in on Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson. That's a combination of Quentin Grimes and Keon Johnson. Keon Grimes, we're mushing players together. Look at the game log. That's my hope here for you guys. And obviously, it's not going to be as good as the last ball game was. He had 8 assists in their last game. That is far and away the high watermark for Keon lately. But if you look at the other games over really like the last 2.5 to 3 weeks, his minutes have been surprisingly consistent. 29, 28, 30, 37, 33, 29, 28, 36. He scored in double figures in 6 of those 7 ball games. He has a defensive stat or more in all 7 of those games, including over that stretch. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 steals over those 7 games, 3 blocks over those 7 games. The assists do seem to be the comes and goes thing. The rebounds are kind of fine. They'll fall somewhere in probably the 4 range. I know he has 9 and 8 in his last 2. I wouldn't expect more than 4 or 5. But again, if we're talking about 14, 15, 16 points, which is very conceivable given how many guys are hurt for the Nets right now, call it 14, 15 points, 4 to 5 rebounds, 2 to 3 assists, a steal or 1.2 steals and half a block with 2 3-pointers. That's a playable dude. And if D'Angelo Russell happens to be out, because we know the Cams are out already, and Ben Simmons might play, but who the hell cares? Ben Simmons is annoying. Although I will say this, and I said this on my other show, if D'Lo's out, in addition to both Cams, you could probably play Simmons for a night. It's not going to be pretty. He'll probably have 6 turnovers, but the other stuff he'll probably get you, 8 points, 6 boards, 8 assists, something like that. But I'd rather have Keon Johnson. If all those guys are out, Keon's going to be a guy who will have to play a little bit of, I don't say point guard, but he'll have to distribute a tad because he's going to be one of the few guys that's working on creating his own shot. The downside with Keon Johnson is field goal percent, because if he's out there with no help and no other players with gravity, you might be looking at basically what we've seen the last 3 or 4 games, which is 6 out of 18 shooting, 5 out of 14 shooting, 5 for 11, 3 for 7. Not great. So, high 30s% in field goal. So, more excited about Keon Johnson in head-to-head than in Roto because of some of those things that could kind of punch a hole in his value. Punting field goal, he's probably a go in any format. If you're not punting field goal, I think you could still make an argument for him in head-to-head and hope that you kind of catch him on a good, whatever it is, 2-3 game span here. Brooklyn's schedule, they go every other day this week. But the Cams are out seemingly for a little bit, and Brooklyn's schedule stays good through the 22nd of January. So if things are going well and, the shot isn't too awful, you could potentially hang on for a little bit. So not as excited quite as a Grimes, who I think you can play in every format, no matter whether you're punting or not. Keon, a little more of a one-punt guy, but definitely very interesting. Next name on the list is Mason Plumlee, who I want nothing to do with. I don't even know that I want him in a 5-game week, because if you look at what he's done here, Yusuf Nurkic has been suspended, remember, for the last 3 ball games. Plumlee's numbers over those 3 are still kind of bad. 2 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, a steal and a block. That's serviceable. 12 and 8 with 3 blocks. That was a good one. I liked that game. But then the last one, 4 and 5 with a steal. It averaged out to On top of that, yes, he's the starter now. So that part doesn't change between the last 3 games and this next one. But Nurk is back. Even if he's coming off the bench, he now exists again in a way that he didn't for the last 3 ball games. Plumlee got 26, 27, and then 20 minutes in those games. In the previous games where Nurk did exist, although he got ejected in the one before, Plumlee was 22, 15, 13, 18. I just, 25, 26 minutes is almost definitely the high watermark for a Plumlee, and that's not great. Now, if he plays 25 minutes a game, you're talking about 125 minutes over a 5-game week. That is startable in head-to-head over a 5-game week. Barely, because he does so little on offense, and, you can look at what he did over his last, I guess that'd be about 70 minutes. The 3 games where Nurk was out, he totaled 18 points, 22 rebounds. That number is actually a little bit better. 10 assists is fine. 2 steals and 4 blocks. That's over 70 minutes. So you're not doubling that. You're maybe adding another 2/3-ish, little more than that to it. So adding 2/3 of 18, you add another 12. I mean, what does that get him to? 30 points over a 5-game week? 6 points a game, roughly. The rebounds should be good. The rebounds should be in the 30s, one would think. That's a decent one. Assists might be around 12 to 15. You would hope for about 3 steals over the week and 4 blocks over the week, maybe 5. It's not awful, but it's also not very good. 30 points, 30 rebounds, that's the part you kind of like. So anyway, all that to say, you might find somebody on the wire who's got a 4-game week who does more with it than Mason Plumlee in a 5. And not that I need to add this, but definitely not playing him against the games cap. But the next dude you are, oh, yeah. That's Amen Thompson. Oh, wait, this is Ausar Thompson. My bad, everybody. I got excited. Ausar Thompson is an interesting one, too. Not a let's go quite the same way. If this was Amen Thompson, he shouldn't be on the ads board. He should have been added to rosters 1,000 times before today. Ausar Thompson is on the ads board because in his last ball game, he went 5 for 5 shooting with 10 rebounds and 6 steals. But as I talked about on our morning show, if you look at his last few ball games where the minutes have been bouncing around a little bit, but 24, 25, 14, and then 26 again, he's not even remotely close to a top 100 play. And that's weird to say because he has 13 steals in those 4 games. Those are Dyson Daniels numbers. He also has 26 rebounds over those 4 games, which is also pretty good. That's 6.5 rebounds a game, including that one clunker mixed in there. If you remove the clunker, well, then things obviously get a little bit better. He's shooting 50% over that span. So why, as you look at this, why does his rank not come close to being a 9-cat startable player? It's because of the negatives. And with Ausar, they're quite substantial. He does not shoot the 3-ball at all. At all. So that's a goose egg. He's bad at the free throw line. Maybe not as bad as he's been lately, but that's a big negative. This is a weird one, and I would assume that maybe it gets a little bit better, but he's not blocking any shots this year. He has 1 block over his last 10 games. He blocked more last season, so you assume that's going to get a little bit better, but, we'll sort of wait and see on that. His passing is nowhere near what his brother's is. I mean, he'll probably get you 1.5 to 2 assists a game, so not 0. And despite all of that, the turnovers are actually kind of on the high side. He has an assist-to-turnover ratio of 1 so far this year. It's hard to hit 9-cat value when you've been a big negative in 3 or 4 categories, even if you're a substantial positive right now in 1. Steals, mondo positive. Which, by the way, this is why when people are like, oh, Dyson Daniels doesn't do anything besides get steals. Not entirely true. Ausar Thompson is doing nothing besides getting steals, and he's ranked like number 250 over the last week because of how bad the free throws have been, the lack of threes, the lack of blocks, the lack of scoring. You have to do something besides steals and a little bit of rebounding, which I think, again, is also probably going to be a small positive for Thompson. So my take on Ausar, and this is a weird ending point to that discussion, is add and sell. I'm totally good with the add off a giant ball game, but sell to someone who thinks he's about to go on like a 70% shooting, 10 rebounds, 7 defensive stat run. Because he'll do it for little stretches. You might sell him and miss a couple of big ball games if he goes on a little mini run here. But we also know where the percentages land. We know where the passing lands. We know where the turnovers land. We know where the 3-pointers land. Guys go on hot streaks. Guys go on cold streaks. Sell him on the hot streak to get a player that maybe you've had your eye on that's kind of, back end of rosters, but with a little bit of buy low to them. And see if you can get him for Ausar Thompson. You might be able to get and I don't like Rudy Gobert, but you might be able to get someone like a Rudy Gobert, who everybody is beyond sick of for good reason. He's been awful lately. But that's a guy who's ranked 90-something right now on the season, but it really can't get any worse, you would think. Anywho. 2 more names on the list. Deni Avdija is the next one. Jeremy Grant is out. And really, I mean, there are posts that I have written that you can go look up where I said, the minute Jeremy Grant goes down, it's Avdija time. And he is crushing, aside from turnovers, over the last week. He's also shooting particularly well over that stretch, which, again, I don't know that you can assume that that's going to hold all the way through, because on the season, he's at 46%. His 3-pointer volume is up. So the field goal percent is probably not getting back to 50-51 like it was in Washington last year, when less than a third of his shots were from downtown, and now more than 40% are from downtown. But the rebounds are big when Jeremy Grant is out, and he gets to sort of the front court minutes are just more available. The assists are always solid for Deni. He will get you some steals. I wouldn't say a ton. He's averaging 1 per game so far this year. The free throw number is actually a little bit better. He's up around 80% this season. Is that going to hold? I don't know. We certainly hope so. Obviously, the 3-pointer volume is up because he's taking more of them at 1.5. But it's all about just getting those power forward minutes. And his minutes are huge over the last week, basically since Jeremy Grant went down, which creates this interesting little window here. And Avdija is relatively heavily rostered, way over-rostered prior to this last week. He was basically universally rostered in leagues that I'm in, even though he'd been sitting in that 140 range the whole year. And it hasn't been the traditional punt build of seasons past. Although, again, I guess you could argue, 8-cat over 9-cat, he has had an advantage this year. But a lot of his bad turnover games have come this week. He had a 10 turnover game a week ago and a 7 turnover game a day ago. If you pull those 17 turnovers out, he hasn't really been a punt turnover guy. It's come along with the extra usage. I know, not great. But also that's, again, kind of as bad as those numbers are ever going to be for anyone in the NBA. So my thought here is, if you happen to be in one of the leagues where people were a bit more discerning and not picking up Avdija when he was a top 150 guy, you add him now and you active stash him for when Jeremy Grant is either traded, shut down, injured, whatever, because you know what's going to happen repeatedly. It's happening right now. Anyway, he's probably not available in your league. But if he is, that's the play. And finally, and I don't know that I totally understand this one, Ziaire Williams is the last name that made the Yahoo board this week, or today, I should say. Yes, Brooklyn has a 4-game week, and yes, Ziaire is coming off of a good ball game. He shot the ball very well, 6 out of 8 from the field, 4 3-pointers. He had 19, 3 and 2 with a steal and a block. But if 19, 3 and 2, which, by the way, like his best game was almost carbon copy of that with more rebounds. That was like 2.5 weeks ago when he had 19, 10 and 2. Then there's not enough upside there because the down games are way worse than the good games are good. And even in this last one, it wasn't like he got, like, I could see if you went back to that game where he had 19 and 10, that was on November 25th. That's more than a month ago. And he was hurt in there, so you can't read too much into it. He missed a month between December 1st and 4 days ago. But it wasn't like he was getting 37 minutes every game. That was it's like right around Thanksgiving. He got a 37-minute game, and he went right back to 24 and a half in the next one. Yeah, there are a lot of guys out. So certainly that's the reason where you're like, well, I'm going to take a shot on it. But I don't know. I just think there are better options on the head-to-head side, even within Brooklyn. I would rather have Keon Johnson. And then you've got the Suns with a 5-game week, and you've got Dallas, who we just talked about, that has 3 games in 4 days to start the week, including the back-to-back. By the way, Minnesota and Miami also have 3 games in 4 nights to start the week. We talked about that with Nikola Jovic. We hadn't really talked about that with Minnesota at all. If you wanted to go Portland or Toronto, I feel like I'm missing one other team that also have 3 games in 4 nights to start the week, but they have it where the back-to-back is on the tail end of that, so it's Wednesday, Thursday for those clubs. I'd rather look at those teams because they'll have an extra game over Brooklyn over the first 4 days this week. And then, all right, I mean, I guess like at least the Nets have a 4-game week, but you don't even know if Ziaire is going to play in all 4 of them. And my guess is he's probably going to be bad in at least 2 or 3. So this one's a no. I think we can do better in all formats. I think we can do better in all formats. And this, again, was the list. If you happen to miss it earlier in the program, I'm going to make sure that I'm zooming in the right amount. There we go. That's the proper zoom. Again, Dunn, Jovic, Grimes, Grayson Allen, Sensabaugh, Keon Johnson, Ausar Thompson, Plumlee, Avdija, and Ziaire Williams. Those are the 10 names most added in Yahoo leagues today. I hope that this brought you some clarity if you were thinking about making moves on any of those dudes yourself. Please remember to like, rate, and subscribe. Remember to pre-like, ladies and gentlemen, our trade deadline live show. That's coming up in exactly 1 month from today. I want to get to 1,000 pre-likes. We're right around 400. I'm Dan Besbris. Follow me on Twitter at DANBESBRIS, and we'll be back with you guys tomorrow with a Monday recap and some Tuesday fun. And I got to figure out release times on these podcasts. This one I'm going to release quickly, but some of the ones that I drop like right as the games are ending seem to do better. I don't know. Algorithms are confusing, guys. Every day I'm trying to figure this out. Thank you for everything you've done to help grow Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Let's keep doing it together. Hit that subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. So long.